So you're approaching 65 and you're wondering if you have enough money to retire. We're going to look at a case study today for a couple who's approaching 65, have a little less than $1 million in their IRAs, 401ks, and 403bs, and we're going to see if they're going to be able to retire at 65 like they want to. So a little background on me. My name is Marcy. I am the president and managing partner of Unity Financial Planning Group. I'm a financial planner, a financial advisor, and yes, there is a difference. And a little fun fact about our firm, we do all the tax preparation in-house for our clients. We also handle all the estate documents such as wills and trusts for our clients as well. I want to pop in a quick disclaimer and disclosures for this video. We use Monte Carlo analysis here for probability of success. Just know that the rates of returns and assumptions in this video do not guarantee any future returns or performance. This is for educational purposes only. We want you to have a good idea of what is out there in terms of your retirement planning options. And again, retirement and education go hand in hand. And so, make sure you consult with a professional about all your financial advice, investment advice, do your due diligence and your research on your own. Make sure you're making an informed decision on your plan. So we're going to talk about George Washington and Martha Washington and their daughter Anne today. As we go into the plan itself, I'm going to give you a little background on who they are. George Washington is currently 63. Martha Washington is currently 64, and they have a 35-year-old daughter named Anne. As it stands now, they came to us, and again, just assume I just had a long conversation about their goals, their current assets, where they want to be, where they're currently at, and I went ahead and inputted all the information in. Again, it's a case study. I did all the dirty work on the front end for you. So as we look at their snapshot here, they currently have about a 75% chance of a probability of success. They've got a net worth with all of their retirement assets and their home of about $1.3 million. They've got a large amount in tax-deferred money, and they've got some taxable in their brokerage and their savings, as well as some tax-free in their Roth. You can see a balance sheet here. And guys, I want to let you know, this is a very powerful software that we use and that all of our clients have access to. From being able to see everything in their accounts to their assets, their investments, all populating in real time. It's super important that you know what's out there. Make sure if you are working with someone, they're using a cash flow software because it's important. Cash flow is super important in retirement. And again, this is a very powerful tool. Unfortunately, you do have to work with an advisor to have access to it. It is not open to the public. But if you are interested, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be more than happy to input all your information for you. So as we look at their profile here, we can see that they do have their 401k, Roth IRA, some 403b right here, brokerage account. They do have about $80,000 left on their mortgage, and their property is worth about $400,000. They do keep a nice little emergency fund in the bank in case they need it. We'll look at their family again. George is 63, Martha 64, their daughter Anne is 35. And then we'll look at their blueprint. This is everything that they own either together or separately. We also have their goals inputted in here. They want to take some vacations. They like to travel, which we can populate right here. They both told me they want to retire at 65 each. George is a little younger than Martha, so he'll have an extra year of working, but they both want to retire at 65. They've got a retirement expense of about $6,500, not including what their monthly mortgage payment is. And they've got some estimated healthcare costs, so Medicare, things like that. And then their long-term care costs, which is super important in today's era of how expensive long-term care is. This is what it would cost each year for the last 2 years of their life. So about $150,000 per individual. $300,000 needs to be allocated towards long-term care for their plan right now. Anne is getting married next year. She has about a $20,000 wedding bill coming, and they would like to cover that. And then they do want to take a vacation every year in retirement. About $5,000 is going to be allocated towards that every year so they can do some travel here in the United States, but also across the pond as well. So as we look into their net worth again, a lot of this is tax deferred. Actually, pretty much all of it but the Roth IRA that they have right here is tax deferred, which means when they pull that money out in retirement, they're going to have to pay income tax on that. And we'll review that here in a little bit. So as we continue on here, we've gone through their goals, their expenses. They're currently spending about $6,500 right now as well. They don't anticipate anything changing in retirement. They have their monthly expenses. They like to go out to eat a lot. They like to go and socialize. So they're going to keep that at about $6,500 a month. As we look into the retirement tab, this is where, as planners, we spend a ton of our time. This and in the tax section, which I'll show you here in a little bit. This is what allows us to make recommendations and show the client what it's going to do to their plan. So they came to us, and after we inputted everything, they're going to have about a 75% chance of success in their plan as it stands right now before working with us. And they'll leave about a little under $1 million to Anne, which is a wonderful inheritance. So that's what their median ending portfolio is going to look like when they pass away. And we'll look at that here in a little while. So action items. This is super fun for the client to see because we can move these dials back and forth as I'm going over the plan with them to show them, hey, what would it look like if we retired a year later, a year earlier? So I'm going to go through, and after meeting with Martha and George, I'm going to show you what this could do to their plan just by working with a planner who has worked with a lot of clients just like them. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier was that they are in a 50-50 target date fund right now, but that isn't suitable for their goals. They're actually more moderate to moderately aggressive investors, and they just weren't aware that these target date funds weren't suitable for them. So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to change that to growth. Not even most aggressive or aggressive, just growth. This is around the 70 to 75, 25 allocation inside their portfolio. And when we hit enter on that, you will see here that that alone has bumped up their probability of success and has done a ton right here to their ending portfolio, right? I mean, just changing their investment options. And obviously, these things fluctuate. The market is going to do what it does, but when you can anticipate about a 7% return every year, that's going to add to your investable assets value. So their Social Security, they say, we both want to take Social Security at 65. Like, okay, well, we can look at that. And as it stands now, you guys are sitting pretty. If we say maybe we both want to take it at full retirement age, which is 67, that means they need to wait 2 years before they take it. Well, we just went up by 4%. So isn't a huge change. So maybe keeping it at 65 isn't too bad. And we'll refresh that. This is the power of this software. It can show them in real time what these big changes can do to the length in their life, right? On how long they're going to live. One of the things we did not talk about before, but as a planner, as an advisor, I know that these things come up. A new car is going to be needed about once every 10 years in retirement. It is what it is. It happens. So we're going to allocate about $15,000 to a new vehicle every 10 years, starting 5 years from now. They've got a 5 or 6 year old car. They think it's going to last another 5 or 6 years. So every 10 years in retirement, they are going to be paying about $15,000 for a new vehicle. And as you see, it does drop their probability of success by a few percentage points. So we also have Anne's wedding included in here, which is wonderful. Well, we look at this and they say, well, wait, that's a decent amount of probability of success, but I'm a little nervous that as soon as we retire, I'm going to spend a lot of money, but then I just don't see myself spending a ton in the bulk years of retirement. The first couple years, I'm spending a lot because it's fun, it's free. I've been working for 35 years. Now I'm going to spend a little money, but I know that I'll get old eventually. And I know I'm going to have to calm down. What can I do about that? Well, we actually have a retirement spending section here called the Retirement Spending Smile just for that. That means in the first few years of your retirement, you're going to be spending a lot, right? You're free. You've been working for so long. But as you're in retirement, it slowly starts to come down. But as you get older, medical expenses start to creep up, becomes more expensive, and then you get in the last couple years of your life and you've got your long-term care expense. This is why we call it the Retirement Spending Smile. As we had it here, you're just spending a little bit more than you did the previous year to keep up with inflation, which just isn't that accurate. So if we just do the Retirement Spending Smile here, Well, you're going to go from 81% all the way to 92%. That is a phenomenal percentage right here, right? And we have a really nice ending portfolio to leave to Ann, but that also tells us we could probably spend a little bit more in retirement because of how much this is. So then they see this and they're like, well, Wade, what would it look like if we just retired right now and we just said we're done, we're through. We want to take that chance. Well, George is 63, Martha's 64. So what we do is we go to here and we put 63 here and Martha's 64 and we hit enter. And we're going to see what that would do to their plan. That drops it all the way back down to where they were when they came in, right? It's a passing grade. A lot of us would have been happy with a 77 in high school and in college, but retirement isn't that. Retirement, we have to get it right the first time. So what does that mean? Does that mean they can't retire right now? No. What that means is either George or Martha would likely need to get a part-time job for a few years to cover some of the bulk expenses in the first 5 years of retirement. So let's say George went and got a part-time job and it pays him $40,000 a year at Home Depot or Lowe's or Publix or something like that. And we refresh that and it goes from 77% all the way back up to 89%. And that's just for the first 5 years of retirement. That puts George at 68 when he fully retires and stops working, which is that's a great age, right? It keeps the brain going, it keeps you active, it brings some income in for the family, and that is something that we can look at. Well, then they say, well, I see we're both passing away at 90. What if we live longer than 90? What happens there? Maybe George lives to 93 and Martha lives to 94. And so let me bump that to 94. And if I hit refresh here, let's see what that does to the plan. Longevity is an issue here. Ironically enough, you actually have a higher probability of success because your investments have been growing with the market as well. So that's something to think about there. So as we look at a comparison here, the blue is where George and Martha were when they walked in. Just making these changes and even retiring earlier and just George getting a part-time job, they're going to have about $2 million more than if they waited till 65 and really just did the normalcy of retirement and just retiring at 65 and spending what they can. And this allows them to actually retire early. Now, granted, you have to have a part-time job for a few years, but it's an option for them. And, maybe George still wants to work till 65 in his current job, and Martha wants to work until 65 as well, but then he still keeps a part-time job after he fully retires. Well, that's only going to increase the plan even more. And by the way, George is an electrician, Martha is a nurse, hence why she had a 403B. So this is what we do with our clients. This is what shows us how they can spend in retirement, what they can spend, what makes the most sense. And then I get to the point with a lot of clients because Roth conversions have become so popular, right? And they say, Wade, well, a lot of our stuff's in tax deferred money. Should we start doing Roth conversions? Well, then I come over here to our tax tab. And while I'm here, I want to show you that we actually can look at some estimated individual tax estimations inside of our software to estimate a 1040. A lot of our clients love that to be able to see what, adding more to their 401k would do to their taxable income every year. So that's something that our clients have access to. So if we come up to the tax strategies tab over here and we go to calibration, and right now we say, let's just fill up our 12% to 15% bucket and we'll refresh that. This tells us if it does make sense for us to do Roth conversions. And in this situation, it slightly does, right? It will have about $115,000 more if we do these conversions. So what we look at is we look at these green areas. And that allows us to fill up what's left of our 12 to 15% bucket there because it's going to be the same income tax amount, and we can proceed with conversions that year. So that's what we help with. We're not expecting you to go out on your own, do these conversions, expect to know what your taxes are going to look like because we are tax planners in-house and we do tax planning and have a tax preparer here. And estate planners, we're able to keep everything in-house and truly help our clients in that fashion. So one of the major things we also look at is the estate checklist here on if there's going to be an estate tax. Right now it's roughly, and as this video is out, July 8th, 2025, right now it's about 14-ish million per person for an estate tax. So we have a lot of clients who are curious on how their children will be taxed when they pass away. One being if it's a tax deferred account, so an IRA or a 401k that's left to them, they'll have 10 years to pay the tax at their own tax rate inside that IRA. If they inherit a Roth IRA, well, then they won't have to pay any tax in that account, but it must be liquidated in 10 years. And by the way, this is the Secure Act 2.0. If your heirs receive a taxable account, like a brokerage account, they receive stock in that, well, it's going to have a step up in basis, which will help them with taxes. So as it stands here, there's not going to be really any taxes that are on the estate side. Yes, there's going to be some income tax because of the tax deferred account, but you're not hitting the thresholds of having to pay estate taxes, which some of our clients have to worry about that, right? And some of our clients don't. But the beauty of this software is to be able to show them that. So we see these clients all the time, and this client might be you, right? You may be right around the $1 million investment mark, and you're curious if you can retire yet, and should you? You maybe just want to hang it up. You've been working for so long, or maybe you love working and want to continue to work, but you want to be tax efficient. These are the strategies we incorporate with our clients, and it's wonderful that you have access to this. We recommend seeking a financial professional for this, doing your due diligence, doing your personal research. But if you are curious what it looks like, there'll be a link in the bio to set up some time with us. No obligation to move forward with anything. We'll show you where you're at and we'll go from there. So again, I really appreciate your time. I hope this was a good case study for you for George and Martha. Maybe you are George and Martha, right? Or maybe you're single and you're curious what that would look like due to the fact that you're filing single now. Or should one of you wait to take Social Security because you want that bump up if the hire passes away first, right? These are all the things we look at with our financial planning, and we know we could probably help you with the software. So don't hesitate to reach out. I appreciate you watching. Share this with a friend. Like, subscribe. We're going to be putting a lot of these out, and we hope to see you again soon.